You know, human history is literally packed with epic battles, right? But there is one clash that is just entirely unmatched. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a fascinating historical and theological account. It's a story of ultimate power, overwhelming fear, and honestly, a masterclass in absolute irony, where a tyrant unknowingly nurtures his own demise right inside his own house. So let's get right into it.
Just think about the sheer contrast here for a second. On one side you have Pharaoh. This guy is the most powerful, tyrannical king on earth at the time. I mean, a man who actually claimed to be a god. And on the exact opposite side, a helpless, newborn baby, Musa or Moses. Talk about the ultimate David versus Goliath, right? But what's really wild about this is that the downfall of this mighty ruler didn't start on some bloody battlefield. No, it began before this baby was even born, quietly, right in the corridors of a palace.
Section 1. The Dream and Cruel Decree. Pharaoh's Panic.
Okay, to really grasp the gravity of this, we need to look at the incredibly dark era of Egypt under Pharaoh's absolute rule. He was brutally subjugating the Bani Israel, the children of Israel, using them for enslaved labor. But his iron grip on power was completely shaken in a single night. Pharaoh had this absolutely terrifying dream, and when he brought in his astrologers and magicians, well, they gave him a chilling interpretation. They told him, "A boy born to Bani Israel will destroy your empire and cause your death." Imagine being a dictator, right? A guy whose entire existence relies on total control, and then hearing that prophecy.
So driven by pure panic and rage, Pharaoh reacted the only way a tyrant really knows how. He issued a sweeping, brutal decree to forcefully alter his own destiny. He targeted the already vulnerable Bani Israel, ordering his soldiers to immediately execute all newborn boys while leaving the girls alive. It was a systematic, horrific campaign. His goal? Eliminate a single, prophesied threat before it could even take its very first steps. This era of deep tragedy is anchored really powerfully in the Quran. Take a look at this from Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayah 49. They were slaughtering your sons and keeping your women alive, and in that was a great trial from your Lord. I mean, this wasn't just some harsh political policy. It was a time of sheer, unimaginable terror for these families. Soldiers literally roaming the streets, tearing homes apart, actively searching for infants.
Section 2. Birth and Divine Strategy. A Mother's Hope.
Now, right in the middle of all this deafening chaos, a quiet, completely pivotal moment happens. Honestly, how can a terrified mother protect her newborn when armed soldiers are searching every single street? Musa is born right into this horrific environment. His mother is paralyzed by the kind of intense anxiety that any parent would instantly understand. The soldiers could knock literally at any second. Her baby's life is in imminent danger and there's absolutely nowhere left to hide. But then, something truly extraordinary happens. Instead of letting her succumb to that blinding panic, a miraculous, totally counterintuitive divine inspiration is placed right in her heart. And this brilliantly illustrates the divine strategy we're talking about today. Surah Al-Qasas, Ayah 7 says, "Suckle him, but when you fear for him, cast him into the river and do not fear and do not grieve. Indeed, we will return him to you." Just imagine that for a second. Being told that the safest place for your fragile newborn baby is the rushing, dangerous waters of the Nile River. It requires a profound, almost unfathomable level of trust to replace that mortal fear.
Section 3. From River to Palace. Into the Lion's Den.
So let's trace how this breathtaking progression actually happens. Trusting that divine promise, Musa's mother places her baby in a small wooden box, and it begins to float down the treacherous waves of the Nile. Meanwhile, Musa's sister secretly follows from a distance, walking along the riverbank, keeping a very anxious eye on this tiny vessel. And where does the river take this fragile little box? Well, by divine command, it flows directly to the heavily guarded gates of Pharaoh's own palace, literally straight into the lion's den.
So Pharaoh's servants spot the box, fish it right out of the water, and bring it inside the palace walls. They open it up, and there is a beautiful, innocent, smiling baby boy. Now, what's crucial to understand here is the immediate danger of this moment. Pharaoh's instinct, the very second he lays eyes on this child, is to ruthlessly enforce his own decree. He has a pretty good idea of exactly who this baby likely is, so his immediate thought, execute him on the spot.
But here comes the ultimate twist in this strategy. You see, it wasn't weapons or massive armies that disarmed the tyrant's wrath. It was compassion.
Specifically, the completely unexpected compassion of Pharaoh's righteous wife, Asiya. The moment she sees this baby, she is just overcome with love. She actually pleads with Pharaoh, and this is recorded in Surah Al-Qasas, saying, "He will be a comfort to my eyes and yours. Do not kill him, perhaps he will benefit us, or we may adopt him as a son." And remarkably, Pharaoh caves. His absolute power is completely neutralized by his wife's affection. The execution decree is suspended for this one specific child.
Section 4. Return to mother's lap. Promise fulfilled.
All right, so the baby is safe from the sword, but a brand new crisis pops up. How is this child going to survive without his mother? The infant Musa is starving, but he absolutely refuses to nurse. The palace brings in wet nurse after wet nurse, but by divine decree, he just rejects every single one of them. He's crying, the entire palace staff is in a total uproar, and the most powerful people in all of Egypt are completely helpless when it comes to feeding one single infant.
Let's look at how this builds into a flawless resolution. Step 1. The baby refuses all the palace nurses, which creates this massive, desperate situation. Step 2. Musa's sister, who, remember, had been quietly watching this entire time, steps forward with a brilliant, super subtle suggestion to the panicked guards. She asks, "Shall I show you a suitable household that will rear him for you?" And of course, the desperate palace officials are like, "Yes, absolutely." So, step 3, they bring in the woman the sister recommends. And it is, of course, Musa's real mother. The baby immediately accepts her, and just like that, the promise is completely fulfilled.
I mean, this just brilliantly illustrates the supreme irony of this entire historical event. Think about it. Pharaoh's desperate plan was to spend his massive wealth and deploy all his armies to brutally kill this prophesied boy to secure his throne. But the divine irony? Pharaoh ends up using his own immense wealth, his own heavily guarded palace, and his own servants to protect, feed, and nurse the exact child he was trying to destroy. He literally hired his greatest enemy's mother, paying her a royal salary to raise his own downfall right under his own roof, and, in the process, bringing total peace to her grieving heart. You can't make this stuff up.
So what you should really take away from all of this is how absolute worldly power is often just an illusion when it's faced with a higher, divine strategy. Pharaoh really thought he was the undisputed architect of destiny, but he was actually just an unwitting participant in a plan way, way bigger than his empire. Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought. Pharaoh is now raising his own downfall right there in his own home. But how will Musa's youth in the palace actually unfold? And how will this adopted prince eventually rise to challenge the man who literally calls himself a god? Well, that is a fascinating narrative for another explainer. Thanks so much for diving into this with me. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.